What's up, everybody? TJ here. Real quick before we get started with the episode, I'm testing out a new feature called Fan Mail, which is where you can actually text me from the episode that you're listening to. So as you're listening to this, go over to the episode description, and right there at the beginning, you're going to see some text that says, send me a text message. Go ahead, click that. Let me know what you think about the podcast so far. Let me know of any questions, concerns, anything you might have. I love to hear from you. So go ahead, hit that up. I'm excited to read your text, and let's get started with the episode. Hey, what's up, everybody? TJ here. Today's episode is going to be awesome. We've been covering heavy topics recently, so we're going to switch things up and talk to our good friend Laura, who also happens to be married to a firefighter, so she understands our life. And she's going to go all in talking about Chinese medicine, how that can help us within the fire service and outside of the firehouse, and in general, some tips and tricks to stay ahead of everything that happens to us in life and to be better rested and better prepared for the stresses of the job. Moreover, you get to take a break from my voice for the majority of this episode because I'm an idiot and I forgot to bring a third microphone when we interviewed Laura. So it's just going to be Josh and Laura talking. Enjoy the episode.
And we can allow ourselves to have such less suffering if we also adhere to what's happening in nature around us.
Welcome to the Keep the Promise podcast, where we help build resilient and well-rounded firefighters.
And that was largely centered around the omega-3s.
So
right?
It was when my U.S. travel for DSM was largely around omega-3s.
Yeah.
Because I started with MarTech as a product manager and then moved into marketing, and then DSM bought MarTech. And then I moved into managing like all of the lipid portfolio because DSM bought us and they bought a fish oil company up in Canada. And so then I was managing like all of the marketing for the lipid portfolio for North America. And then one of my old bosses was like, you need to come work for me in the early life nutrition team. And so then I went and I was managing maternal nutrition in early life nutrition globally. And then I took over like the marketing and innovation for early life nutrition. And I was like second in command of the team.
Oh.
So yeah, so I don't know. That was the progression. But yeah, it was a lot.
Now, what was the hinge that got you from that? And we're like, I'm chucking the deuces. I'm making this major life change. I'm going back to school. What was the shoe that dropped? Like,
dude, it's so there were several, I think, because traveling was awesome and I loved the people I worked with, but the company and the job, it was so stressful. And I noticed I was sick all the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just like constantly stressed, and I was like, I don't think this is sustainable long term. And when I would travel, my anxiety level would be up. And so it actually happened that I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil for work, for meetings with customers. Yeah, it's a cool city.
Yeah.
And I had a cough because I have asthma. And every fall, I would get like this really annoying cough that would turn into bronchitis. And then I would have bronchitis for like 3 months. It was so annoying. And so I was in Sao Paulo and had a cough. And my coworker there was like, I'm going to hook you up with a massage. And I was like, dude, that would be amazing. Thank you. And so we were in internal meetings in the office in Sao Paulo, and the meeting wasn't done. And she was like, you have to go because your massage appointment is soon. And I was like, dude, I can't leave. Like I'm in this meeting with you. And she was like, no, you can leave. It'll be fine. And so in Brazil, it was super dangerous. We couldn't travel by ourselves. We had to travel with a driver. And so I go outside, I get in the car. The driver doesn't speak English. I don't speak Portuguese. So I'm like, whatever. I'm like at this guy's mercy. And so we drive to this office and he's like signaling me to like walk upstairs. And I'm like, I'm like alone in Sao Paulo and I have no idea what's going on. So I go in this office and the lady who is doing the massage doesn't speak English. And again, I don't speak Portuguese. And I understand she tells me to like take my dress off and lay down on the table. And I was like, okay, cool. And then she starts sticking needles in me. And I was like, this is not a massage. This is acupuncture. So it was my first experience ever with acupuncture. And I felt amazing afterwards. I loved it. I kept doing it when I came home. And ultimately, I missed like helping people because I was a dietitian for years before I was in DSM, right? And I maintained my RD status, but I just missed helping people.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I think acupuncture is what I need to do. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it.
That's all.
So yeah.
And it's nice that we kind of have a it's nice that we have the was it well, I guess it was known as Thai Sophia, right, at one point?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and that's right in kind of our backyard.
Yeah, it was so Thai Sophia was in Columbia, more like Columbia proper, and now MUIH is in Laurel. So
Okay.
yeah, it's not very far.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, the program itself, 3 years?
3 years.
3 years.
So it's all year round. We went like 3 trimesters in a year,
Mhm.
and you go 2 days a week, all day long, pretty much. For like, I was a Thursday, Friday. So we went all day Thursday, all day Friday. And then as you like progress in the program, you come into clinic and you go to clinic whenever you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's busy. It ends up being like, I don't know. I took like 15 to 20 credits every trimester, basically. So it's a big program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you, like, what's the formal term? Do I call you doctor?
Not yet.
Not yet? You're almost
Soon.
there.
Yes. Oh my God. So I have a master's in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I'm a licensed acupuncturist. And then I'm finishing up the doctoral program, and I'll be done with that in May.
So May, you'll be Dr. King.
Yes.
How cool.
Dude, it's cool. It's cool. It's fun.
And I totally missed out on the RD side of things. Like, I knew you
Yeah.
were involved in that, but I didn't realize that was your main thing for a while.
Yeah.
And then have maintained that throughout. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool marriage. And actually, do you see a lot of overlap between the two?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Because Chinese medicine looks at nutrition in a totally different way.
Sure.
And then Western nutrition, of course, looks at it very much in like the biochemical way, breaks everything down. And Chinese medicine kind of zooms out. So I think the two go really well together when we're talking about like health and nutrition.
Yes.
But yeah.
One thing I really appreciated when I got COVID, you immediately, like, I didn't even ask for it, which I appreciate. You're like, I care about this so much that, bam, here's like an entire rundown of things I need you to do.
Yeah.
And it was so much, and it was very simple, gentle, like restoring the system and bringing in just the nutrition and herbal supplements.
Yeah.
And that was just, it was super awesome. So number one, I appreciate that, but it was neat to just like, bang, you just started firing it off. Like, I could tell your mind was if I do all these things. And it helped get me through.
Cool.
That was cool. So
Awesome. Cool.
I definitely appreciated that.
Nice.
Right, I guess bringing us into some more of the background stuff.
Mhm.
Was there St. Francis? You had a couple things in here.
Yeah. So I went to St. Francis, which is this little teeny tiny school about like an hour west of Penn State. And it was about smaller than my high school. So, and I studied physical therapy for 2.5 years there. Physics killed me. Hated physics. So then I was like, all right, what else do I want to do? I was like, I love nutrition. So I just kind of up and made the decision that I'm going to transfer to Penn State. And so I finished out my college career at Penn State. I had to go an extra semester just because I needed to get those nutrition classes.
Yeah.
And then graduated from there, went and did my dietetic internship in Richmond, Virginia, and then moved to Maryland after that to start working in like hospitals and stuff like that. Yeah. And then did pharma sales and for Abbott, and then worked at DSM, Martech DSM.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's just an interesting evolution.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you see a lot of RDs that, follow the path that you have followed.
I know it's weird. I really appreciate it though, because I've had so much different experiences,
Yeah.
And DSM was so stressful and amazing at the same time because it was really cool as a dietitian to see behind the curtain of the industry.
Yeah.
Of the food, beverage, nutritional supplement industry. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just go ahead and skip ahead.
Cool.
Like, as soon as you say like the pulling back the curtain on that industry.
Yeah.
I know that I think one, culturally, just where we are at as a human race right now, but then also within the fire service, like we are quick to just grab onto some of the easy fixes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what were some of the things that you saw that were just alarming?
in the
like straight up
in the food, beverage, nutrition
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
So it's, oh my gosh, so many. It is a good industry, I think, but at the same time, there's so many challenges because the food, beverage, dietary supplement companies,
Mhm.
they want to make money.
Sure.
They're really concerned about their profit margin,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, there are companies that have a concern about putting out really good, reputable products. Those tend to get lost in the mix because the bigger companies have huge marketing budgets, so they can kind of trump the smaller companies that might be really concerned about actually helping people.
Yeah.
I think the challenge, the frustration that I had with working in the industry was that like our company that I worked for, we were a nutrient supplier to the industry. So we supplied them vitamins, minerals, premixes, nutraceutical
wow.
products that they would then put in their products.
Okay.
And the company that I worked for, DSM, was super high quality. So we had really high standards.
Yeah.
And companies chose not to work with us because our high standards translated into a higher cost for our products. And so companies would decide, well, you guys are too expensive, so I'm going to use a cheaper ingredient in my product. You know, so that was challenging to see brands not wanting to go the extra mile to spend more money on more quality products. Yeah, claims are always hard. The science behind the claims
Mhm.
are tough. The regulations, like the FDA and the regulations it's a challenging industry. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's everything comes back down to the dollar, right?
Totally.
So
yeah.
you see it. I mean, cheap supplements, and just little things like, I know just if I'm shopping for my family,
Mm-hmm.
to look at the quality of ingredients. And that's something that we get roped into. We had this discussion the other day about when we're going into Firehouse meal planning. And
Yeah.
people are like, well, no, this has got 100 calories. Like, look at the label. It's like a 100-calorie slice of bread, or, this is a 20-calorie slice of bread. I'm like, I appreciate you're paying attention to these things, but don't look at just the number of calories. Let's look at like the actual quality of ingredients that are being put into these products.
Yeah.
I care much more about the quality of the food that you're
Mhm.
putting into your body than I do about just a number.
Yeah.
You focus on that quality, you're going to feel and perform so much better.
Right.
Comparatively, if you're just worrying about that, slice of, what is it, those little sandwich thins
Yeah.
that are 20 calories, and then you got your like uber lean,
Oh,
like
God.
rotisserie processed meat,
Yeah.
and then it's like one thing begets another, another.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not what we should be focusing on right now.
No, exactly.
Quality.
Yeah.
Quality of side
Yeah.
of things. But yeah, it's tough. So let's circle back for some of the Chinese medicine. I kept calling it Eastern medicine.
It's totally cool.
And it's
all
like
good.
it's kind of a catch-all, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But formally it's Chinese medicine.
Formerly, so it's hard because even the program at MUIH calls it Oriental medicine,
Oh, okay.
which is interesting. It's kind of going through a crisis of a name situation
Okay.
at this point.
Yeah.
But one of my teachers, who is a 25th generation Chinese medicine doctor,
That's
and
amazing.
he's like a medical doctor trained in China, and he has a PhD. He wants it to be called Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
So I want to honor him because he has so much experience in this medicine, and honor the tradition of the medicine by actually calling it Chinese medicine. So
Yeah.
yeah. But honestly, you can call it Eastern medicine. You can call it Oriental
Okay.
medicine.
25 generations is insane.
Yeah. I
That's
don't even know
amazing.
how many years that is. How many years is that?
I don't even know. What is it, 50 years per generation?
I don't know.
I don't even
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But you gave like a really nice rundown. I mean, it's at least 2,500 years old.
Yes, at least. So some people put it at 2,500 years old. Some people put it at 5,000 years old.
Mhm.
It's, bottom line, really old.
Right.
It's like the oldest medical system in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been around for a long time.
And what is the basis of the medicine, and what are like essentially its intended goals? Like what are we trying to accomplish with Chinese medicine?
So it's such a good question. And we could probably go down a rabbit hole just with that question alone.
Let's do it.
So the basis of the medicine are several theories, I would say. There's like qi theory, there's yin yang theory, there's 5-element theory. And what we're trying to achieve by all of those different theories is ensuring that like our chi in our body, which is life energy, it's essentially, is moving and operating in as optimal way as it possibly can. And I think the unique thing about Chinese medicine is that we look at like whole person health, whereas in Western medicine, and there's nothing wrong with this essentially, but Western medicine pockets things, right? You go to your gastroenterologist and you go to your cardiologist. But within Chinese medicine, we are mostly generalists. We look at everything as related. All the organs relate to each other. All the meridians relate to each other. And you can't separate one from another. They all go together as a whole.
Sure.
And in order to heal somebody, whatever they're suffering from, you have to access kind of the way the whole body works, basically through the meridians, the organs, and the function of the chi and body fluids, yin and yang, etc.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So
cool.
it's definitely a zoomed out view, and I think that's where some of the Western medicine, I mean, obviously it's done some amazing life-saving things
100%.
in advanced science.
Yeah.
But that's the other side of it. Your greatest strength can become also your greatest weakness. And we zoom in on a micro level on these singular systems, and we completely forget the rest of the human body.
Yeah,
And it's, one thing is affecting another. So
totally.
yeah, that's what I really appreciate about what you're doing and bringing to the table. So I'm hesitant to use the word hack, but how, with some of I threw a couple things at you. So to recap, we talked about this CBD rate within the fire service and cardiac related disease being 45 to 50% of our line of duty deaths. So with cardiac disease, we have cancer risk that goes way up compared to the normal population.
That's crazy.
It's 1.2. Some of the studies are showing upwards of double, even triple the amount for certain cancers compared to the general public. The CVD was, I think, 1.7 times higher. One study out of Toronto compared to the general population. So we have heart disease. We have the cancer risk. We have sleep disturbance that affects all those things. So I know those are three major things that I just threw at you. But let's say I came into your practice. What are some of the things that initially you're just going to triage? So we'll just start there. How are you going to start triaging somebody that's in the fire service to just start formulating a plan? Like, what are you looking for? And how are you like, all right, I'm going to use these techniques to try to help this person stave off some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I know that's a very open-ended question. It can go down a ton of rabbit holes, and I'm good with it. I'm trying to get the bite-sized pieces right now as a toss-up for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So how are you going to triage?
So basically, I kind of let the patient lead me, and when they come in and tell me what their primary concern is. So if like you came into me and you were like, I'm at risk for cancer and my primary concern is sleep, right?
Yeah.
I would put the cancer risk in the back of my mind, and that would be something that I would keep a hold of, and I would monitor, things that I'm seeing from you just to see if there's anything there that we need to address. And I would focus on your sleep concern primarily, right? And so in Chinese medicine, we do several different things to kind of figure out how we're going to support patients. We look at, and you know this because you came in to be treated by me in school, but basically we listen to what you're telling us is going on, right? So Chinese medicine is interesting where we do a lot of energetic reading. Yeah. So everything that you say to me means something, not only the content of what you're saying, but also how you're saying it.
Okay,
and so
cool.
I'll make a note of that. And how your energy is moving and what your energy is telling me your body is needing. And so we also do tongue diagnosis, which is really weird.
I remember that.
Yeah. So we look at the tongues of people, which is so weird. Many people are like, what? I don't get it.
I
Anyway.
don't feel comfortable with my mouth in front of you.
I know, it's very weird. But so all the organs of the body are mapped on the tongue. So we ask people to see their tongue, and I can tell from the tongue what's going on as well. And then we do pulse reading, and it's over the radial artery, just like we would take pulses in Western medicine, except I'm looking at 3 different positions over the radial artery on both sides, which correlate with the organ systems. And I'm looking at like the levels. I go down really deep, and then I come back up and start superficially and then go deep again. because we're looking for different qualities on the pulse, which tells us what's going on. So you may come into me and be like, I have these risks or I have this family medical history and my main concern is sleep. And what I'll do is I'll take everything that you've shared with me from like what the content of what you shared, but also the energetics of what you shared, your tongue reading, your pulse reading. And I can also palpate different points and that can tell me different things. And I'll kind of put all that together in a treatment plan. So what's cool about Chinese medicine is that we can address a lot of different things in one treatment, which is neat. It's not like you have to give one drug for one thing.
Yeah, right.
Right? Or you have to go see one specialist for one specific thing. The cool thing is I can plan a treatment because of the way the meridians work and the way the organs are related to each other. I can plan a treatment to address multiple different things in one session, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so you're basically going to start working downstream because what some of these pulses are telling you is, like, okay, I'm seeing an issue maybe with this part of the body. Something's but this system is being affected, and so then you can start working downstream and then start implementing the plan from there.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember, you were checking my tongue. There was like a liver pulse.
There's
right?
liver pulses. Yep. Yeah.
And these are all telling you things.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the common things that you're seeing? Because you've also worked with firefighters.
I have, yeah.
Are you seeing general themes within the fire service? I'm kind of curious now.
That's a good question. I don't know, actually. I'd have to go back and look at all my notes from the people that I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Because it's been a while since I've seen a bunch of firefighters in a row.
Yeah, right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah.
So, and then just zooming out, like what are some of the common things that you are seeing just with where we're at in life? We're in the mid-Atlantic. Like, what are you seeing people, like, what are we dealing with here?
Dude.
Like when you're seeing, like doing the tongue reading and checking the pulses, what are some of the common things that you see every day and you're like, I know I can make change here?
Yeah. So I can talk to one firefighter that I've seen, and I can't generalize this to everybody. But one firefighter came in to see me, and her heart pulse, when I pushed into it, it like was a puddle basically at the bottom, which tells me that there is like anxiety, stress, different things like that going on in her life. Her liver pulse told me that there was some like stagnation going on, which could be causing sleep issues. It could be as a result of sleep issues. It could indicate pain in the body, different things like that. And the kidney pulse was also like thin and empty at the bottom, which tells me that the kidneys need support, basically, because so the kidneys represent our will. And if we exert so much will, we'll deplete our kidneys, basically. And our kidneys are like our source chi. And you guys being in the fire department, you guys are exerting a lot of will. Right? So supporting her kidneys was something that I needed to do also. So I guess I can't generalize that to every firefighter I've ever seen, but those were just some of the things that stuck out to me. I remember asking into her pulses, like, do you have anxiety right now? Or do you have anxiety in general? And she was like, yeah, that's weird. Like, how do you know that? And so
yes, all of the above.
Yeah. And like the sleep issues and different things like that. Now, some of that I know going into, treating somebody who's in the fire service. But so it was more confirming than it was denying. Right. But, but yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you start identifying some, we'll say issues or areas of concern, when you start looking at some of the major organs and body systems, what is the treatment that you're going to start implementing to affect change? So obviously acupuncture is one of the big ones. So many people are just terrified of needles or they think it's painful. Like, let's just start breaking that one down. I mean, that's such a major component of what you do. So just if you could explain to us like the research, the intent, like what are you doing to affect change? And like, can you bring down people's like worry level? Because it's so approachable. It's like, it's not a big deal.
Right. Exactly. So acupuncture, I totally get it. So scary because people are like, needles?
Right.
What?
Coming out looking like a porcupine.
I know, exactly. So the needles that we use, they're called filiform, which essentially means hair-like.
Mhm.
So they're very, very small. They're like the width of a hair.
Yeah.
So while you will feel a needle go in because it's a sharp object that's penetrating your skin. Once it's in, you won't feel it. What you may feel is like an achy sensation, which is good. We say that that's the chi that you're noticing. Right. But once it's in, you won't feel it. Besides acupuncture, if someone's like super scared of acupuncture, we can do acupressure. It's good. It's not as good as the needles. I can do cupping, which is amazing. It feels so good.
Yeah, that's great.
I do fire cupping, which is amazing. It's so awesome. We can do something called Tui Na, which is basically Chinese medicine massage. And in China, they actually use Tui Na to like reset bones and stuff in lieu of surgery, which is super cool. I'm not there yet, but but that's something that we can do. So there are other modalities that we can do.
Mhm.
There's Chinese herbs that you can take if you don't want to do acupuncture. But most of the research, because you asked about the research, so most of the research on acupuncture and Chinese medicine is looking at the use of needles, something called moxa, and Chinese herbs. And the research, so acupuncture is so hard to research because
Yeah.
it's like you're researching chi and it's life energy. And how do you actually, how tangible is it, right?
Yeah.
It's not very tangible. So it's hard to research. So a lot of the research will do an actual acupuncture point versus what's called a sham acupuncture point. So they'll put a needle into an acupuncture point and then they'll put a needle into a point that's like a centimeter away or like right next to it. And then the outcomes that are measured are typically patient-reported outcomes.
Yeah.
So like I slept more, or I had less anxiety, or I had less symptoms, or, you know, things like that is how it's researched. Moxa is also researched. So moxa is mugwort and it grows here.
Oh, wow.
But basically they take it and they dry it and it looks like this like brown spongy type of herb. And basically we take it and we can burn it on an acupuncture point.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't let it burn your skin, obviously.
right.
In China, they do burning or scarring moxa. We're not allowed to do that here because insurance wouldn't let us do it. But that's also another way that we can treat. And moxa is also really effective. And I guess, yeah, it's used in studies. I don't know if it's any easier to study than acupuncture, but yeah.
And that's used during the acupressure sessions?
We can use it during acupressure. I use it during acupuncture. Sometimes I'll use moxa before I do a needle, or I'll burn moxa actually on a needle. Yeah.
So what's the moxa for though? Like what are you doing with it? Like what's the intended goal there?
So it's like very nourishing and warming. So it has like nourishing and warming properties basically. So it's kind of, it helps to like speed up the movement of the chi sensation at the needle, or the chi coming to the needle basically.
Okay.
So there is research to understand what is happening with the needle.
Yeah, the actual like
which is
physical.
Good. Yeah. So the research shows that when a needle is inserted, the tissue actually wraps around the needle is one thing. When a needle's inserted, biomaterials like red blood cells, white blood cells are called to the area to initiate healing. And when a needle is inserted, they're able, well, even if the needle's not inserted, they're able to tell that an acupuncture point is more electrically active than a non-acupuncture point. So there's something that's happening at an acupuncture point that's not happening at a non-acupuncture point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you're obviously creating healing. So let's talk about that. Like when you are inserting these, hair-like needles, what is it that you're trying to make happen? And I know it's like energy flow and create healing, but I know there's a reason why you do certain points and you avoid certain points. So what can you explain that process a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So each point, there's like thousands of points on the body. Sure. Sorry. I have a frog in my throat.
We can totally edit that out.
Exactly. Okay, good. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. So yeah, there's over like thousands of points on the body. And we learned, I don't know, maybe 400 of them in school.
Wow.
And they all have different functions. So I would choose a point based off of a different function, for example, of what I wanted the point to do. But generally what we're trying to do is when we insert an acupuncture needle, I'm sorry. I have such a frog in my throat. Anyway, when we insert an acupuncture needle, we're basically asking the chi to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either we're asking it to move to a certain area, or move away from a certain area, or we're asking it to unblock something. So like if somebody has pain, it could be that like what we would call stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
And we will insert a needle to ensure that the chi is like moving past the area. It's like, think of trees falling in a river, right? If the trees dam up the river, then the river's not going to move. So we would insert needles to kind of make the chi move, or like the river move, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be to like actually create better free flowing, like work within the system.
Yeah.
So either move the pain or bring something back to that area to create that healing.
Yeah. And we can do it to like break something up. So like in Chinese medicine, something like cancer or like a tumor would be considered stagnant blood in a way, or like stagnant fluids of some sort. So we can do specific acupuncture points using needles to ask the body to break that up, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just depends on what we're doing. And based off of that is where I would put the needles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, everybody that's coming to you, I mean, a whole host of, I don't want to say issues, but you're treating everybody differently. And like I said, you're so zoomed out, which is awesome, that there's no like one size fits all approach, which I really appreciate.
It makes it hard too.
Yeah.
Like,
you're always on your toes. You're always figuring stuff out. It's like a chess game.
I know. And in school for the doctoral program, we have to do protocols basically, because that's just how the doctoral program's designed. But I struggle with it because I want to treat somebody how they're showing up, right? I don't want to have to do the same protocol every single time. And that's the hard thing, because the Chinese medicine studies that are out there use protocols. So it's like, which is great, because then we can take that and kind of insert it into a treatment.
Yeah.
But it's also, it diverges from the goal of the medicine, you know? So yeah, it's hard, but
a lot more fact finding.
Yeah. And it's also the thing I love about it too, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
That was like the fundamental, it's like a tenet of the medicine, is that no two symptoms are alike, no two people are alike, nothing's alike, right?
Yeah,
so everybody's different, which is cool.
So as we're moving, like let's say we're in our appointment or whatever, you're doing acupuncture, kind of next steps. So I know you talked about herbal, like therapy.
Chinese herbal medicine. Yeah.
The herbal side of things. We've got cupping. I know you're throwing a lot of stuff at throwing the kitchen sink at some point, depending on what's going on with the person. Once we get past the acupuncture, what are you going to start roping in? And if that's, herbal medicine next, we can hit on that. Like as we evolve through that appointment, what other things are we bringing in to the mix just to help healing?
Chinese herbal medicine, maybe. Also nutrition. I also try to hit on nutrition with my patients a lot, because it's not only like health isn't only the nutrition, right? It's not only like your exercise. It's not only going and getting Chinese medicine or acupuncture once a week or whatever. There's like, it has to be, in my opinion, a combination of everything to achieve health. So I'll talk to my patients about nutrition, either from like a Chinese medicine point of view or Western point of view, or both, just kind of looping that in to encourage this idea of like whole life, whole person healing. Yeah. Like look at every aspect of your life and figure out how you can fine tune it to, achieve your goals or achieve better health outcomes, whatever it might be. Yeah. Yeah.
Are there certain herbal, we'll say remedies, that if you're presenting with certain symptoms, like, hey, I would recommend this, or are there things that you would take on a regular basis? Let's put those two out.
Yeah.
So regular basis, is there something that you recommend? And if you are exhibiting with certain things, like let's say you're dealing with sickness, we're coming into the fall and the winter, things start ramping up on the flu and cold season, right? If you're presenting with certain things, what are some things that you would recommend, or are those things that you recommend?
So the answer to your question is both yes and no. And Chinese herbs are something I'm still studying, so I'm not an expert yet in Chinese herbs, but I can tell you is that there are patent formulas where they have been used for thousands of years. They might be in an ancient text, and we know that they do something within the system, right? So we could say, oh, you have these symptoms. Okay, take this herb. Most of Chinese herbal medicine, though, is based off of individualized. I'm going to pull this herb in. I'm going to pull this herb in. I'm going to pull this herb in. I'm going to give you this formula. So the herbs in Chinese medicine are associated with different organs. They have different ways that they move in the body. They have different thermal temperatures. And so, like both of you guys, if you have the same symptoms, it might show up differently in your bodies, which might cause me to use one herb for you and a totally different herb for you. You know what I mean? So it's very individualized. So yes, I could say, yeah, take this because it's fall time, and flu season's coming up or whatever. But I also wouldn't necessarily recommend that. It has to be more individualized, if that makes sense.
No, I really enjoy hearing that, because I think it's so easy to get into the one size fits all approach of, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a doctor and they're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do 800 milligrams of Motrin. And you're going to do that for the next 2 weeks or until this goes away. And I think that's like a rampant joke within the military, right? Like 800 milligrams of Motrin and ibuprofen, like that's your standard. Right. That's the gold standard.
Yeah.
Right? And I've heard that a lot out of just Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, where I can give you some like goals and general guidelines, but honestly, we try to really narrow it down to that individual.
Yeah.
Which is something we don't do a very good job of over here, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like it just Western medicine in general.
Yeah.
It is much more protocol based and one size fits all approach.
Yeah.
So.
And we need both though.
We do. Absolutely.
Like I don't want to, and I know you're not like poo-pooing Western medicine.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that either. I think Chinese medicine and Western medicine can both work really well together.
Yeah.
So I think like Chinese medicine can pick up where Western medicine falls off, right?
Yeah.
Which is important. And there's some things that I can't do. Like I can't do surgery on somebody, right?
Right.
I don't think you want me to do surgery on anybody. But yeah, so we definitely need both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could you, if you have somebody that's coming in that's dealing with something and they are working with, let's say, just something much more stereotypical Western medicine, how can you incorporate your care into whatever they're dealing with treatment wise, or advocate for your own patient?
Yeah.
Like how can you insert yourself?
It's such a good question.
Yeah.
So basically I have a patient, actually I've seen 2 patients who have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, it's a really challenging diagnosis because it comes with a whole host of symptoms. And so when I've seen those 2 patients, they both actually have 2 totally different sets of symptoms. And what I try to do is I look at what medications they're on, because most of them are on a whole host of medications to control their tachycardia episodes, or whatever other symptoms that they have. And one thing I do is I look at that and I make sure nothing is conflicting with anything, right? Because I'll be like that second look at the medication or third look at the medication just to make sure that nothing is conflicting.
Super common.
Yeah, totally. And I'll also try to understand their past medical records. Like send me lab tests, send me like MRIs, like whatever test that you have, send it to me so I can look at everything. And what I try to do is take whatever their diagnosis is from a Western medicine point of view and understand it from a Chinese medicine point of view within Chinese medical theory. And then I'll try to not accommodate, but complement whatever is happening from a Western medicine point of view with the treatments that I'm doing. Because I don't want to do something that's counter to what they're currently getting from Western medicine to make something worse.
Yeah, sure.
If that makes sense. So I'll try to complement it all together. And if for some reason I see that something needs to change with whatever you're getting from a Western medicine point of view, then I will try to communicate with their Western medicine doctor or nurse or whoever it is that they're seeing.
Yeah. Are you seeing good reception from people? And like when you come in with the Chinese medicine side of things, is it pretty welcoming?
It is. So at least from the people that I've worked with so far.
Yeah.
So I haven't encountered too many yet. I'm sure I'm going to, right? Sure. I'm sure I'm going to encounter people who are not super open to it. It may also be because these people who I've seen who are super challenging were referred to me by a medical doctor. So
Okay.
that person's already open
Yeah, that's
to
encouraging.
Chinese medicine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll run into people who are like, whatever, it's quack science. It's really weird. We don't get it. Like, it doesn't work. I'm sure I'll run into that. But so far I haven't, which is good.
That's great. Are there any, if somebody's dealing with working through somebody in Western medicine, are there any red flags that people should be cognizant of? I know that's kind of an open-ended question.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean?
If like a doctor is telling you one thing, is there something in Chinese medicine that is like, that goes against everything we do and believe?
Good question.
One of them, I mean, a simple one you kind of already mentioned, where you go to 8 doctors and they might prescribe you 8 to 16 different medications and they work against each other. My mom is a registered nurse and works in hospice care, and she sees this all the time. One thing affects another, and we're just dragging the system down.
Yeah.
And things are not operating normally, and we're making the person worse. And then when you start getting people to talk to each other, like, oh, we didn't realize. Well, that's because you just looked at the one thing.
Right.
So that's like an easy one. Are there other things that you see where you're like, and I know you got to be tactful about it. But is there something where you're like, ooh, I'd be really careful with this one. Is there certain things that we need to be aware of?
A funny one, like a lighthearted one, is ice. So,
Okay.
when you go to, I know that might not be what you were looking for, but
No, it's all right.
But so if you go to, I don't know, physical therapist or whatever, and they're like, you need to ice this injury or pain or whatever it is. So we say in Chinese medicine that ice is for dead people.
Okay, good. Put them on ice.
So yeah, ice is one of those things. If somebody comes into me and they're like, yeah, I'm icing my shoulder because it hurts and it's in pain, I'm like, please stop that immediately.
Yeah.
So when we think of what's happening in nature, what does ice do? It stops. It slows everything down, right? Like when we're in the season where ice is, like everything is dormant, nothing is really growing. There's not much, like the life is hidden, right?
Yeah, right.
So when we think about what's happening in nature, that's what's happening in the body with the ice, right? It just slows everything down. So that's one thing from a Chinese medicine point of view that I'm like, please don't do that. But like when we're talking about medication, so under my license in the state of Maryland, I cannot prescribe, I cannot like make specific medicine recommendations. But if I know that a certain medicine is doing something, like if I know a certain medicine is causing like a lot of heat. So like prednisone, for example, is a medicine that people have to take for autoimmune conditions or other things. And it's a medication that from Chinese medicine point of view, it causes a lot of heat in the body. So what I can do with my treatments is try to drain the heat, because if it's not serving the patient, then I want to drain the heat and I want to get rid of the heat.
Yeah.
And then I can talk to the patient about what that's doing in their body, and so that they can have a conversation with their doctor about like how much do they actually need this medicine? Like, is this medicine actually serving them? Is there a substitute? Different things like that. And oftentimes there's not. They need the medicine, right? So I'll just try to like support what they're coming in with.
Minimize the side effects of what's happening.
Yeah,
that's good. And hopefully in doing so, you're streamlining the effectiveness of the medication.
Yeah.
And
that's what we try to do.
Shirking all the negative side effects from it.
Yeah.
That's good. Going back to the ice bit, I think a lot of the DPTs, the physical therapists that I have worked with and hung out with and learned from, they have done a good job, I think, of not incorporating a ton of ice therapy.
Good. That's awesome.
Now, ice baths, that's a total separate thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of that. But when we're talking about injury specifically, I'm totally with you. I have seen it more where like movement is generally like, that's the thing that's going to get you back to being healthy. So often I see people that are dealing with back problems and they go straight to Motrin and ice, and you're stopping the inflammation response. Your body is working that response to heal the body, right?
Exactly.
And yes, we need to keep it tempered if it's like just going off the rails and the injury and the pain is just too much.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when people are saying, hey, I don't want to deadlift because my back hurts, I'm like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to deadlift.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And some of the best training coaches I've seen, whether it's from people I've worked with or some of the Olympic coaches, they'll tell you that, no, we're actually going to deadlift. We're going to scale it. We're going to make it approachable.
Right. It makes sense.
But we're going to get you moving again
Yeah.
because that's what the body's designed to do.
Exactly.
And we're going to retrain it. We're going to reteach it. We're going to work through some of this inflammation.
Yeah.
We're going to make it approachable.
Yeah.
But we're going to stay away from the things that are staving off that response.
And we say in Chinese medicine, we say that the body is wise. Like our bodies are way wiser than our minds, right?
Yeah.
Like we think we know everything, but our bodies know more than we do.
Yes.
So your body is going to tell you what it needs to heal, right? Yeah. And so doing that movement is probably going to feel good, but the mind is saying, I can't, I don't want to. And it's going to be painful.
It's self-preservation.
Right.
Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to ask a huge favor. As I'm sure the majority of you know, we've been posting like crazy on Instagram and TikTok, and we're slowly moving on to other platforms like Facebook and YouTube. So in the time being, if you could just go ahead and head to either Instagram or TikTok, just share the episodes, share the little blurbs that we put out there, just tell all your friends about them. It would mean the world to us. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the episode.
But I think we need to get better at listening to our bodies. Like, what is our body telling us? What do we actually need? And listen to your body and do that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, that's an interesting segue where we can get into the, there's that old quote, I think it might be Ben Franklin, but it's like, let food be thy medicine.
Yeah.
So.
Love it.
I mean, we've been hitting some of the Chinese medicine side of things. And I know that with your RD background, like the nutrition and diet side of things, is such a huge support network for what's happening inside the body. So let's say, like, I mean, you're very aware of the fire service culture.
Oh boy.
Right?
Yeah.
You're married to one of them.
Yep.
So we are, we're sitting around the dinner table and we have to combat a lot of things, right? We have to feed a ton of people sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, we might
10
have
plus, right?
Sometimes 10 plus, depending on the station and the assignment. We have to feed a lot of people, but we want our food to be therapeutic. I mean, there is that somatic response. Like there's definitely a relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
But even getting past that, how do we set ourselves up best for what we're doing? One, for the therapeutic side of things, for what you're doing and, you know, zooming out and get a better picture, but then also for the performance side of things. You know, we talked to Amy Mastro.
Yeah, I loved that one. That was
great.
awesome.
Yeah, and she was phenomenal getting us so much information. So if we can dovetail off of some of the things that she also said, but coming from your background with the Chinese medicine side of things, how do we best just support our bodies for healing and performance?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And such like a loaded question, right? Because
there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So where do I start? So nutrition for sure. Trying to feed and fuel your body to be able to achieve your goals, whatever they may be, whatever it is, you know, sleeping or working out or going on that tough call that you guys have to do, right? Like ensuring that you are fueled and prepared and ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like one tiny piece of the puzzle. Right? That's not even like a big piece of the puzzle. It's a small part of the puzzle is the nutrition side of things. It's also sleeping, right? Like finding time to sleep. Now I know you guys have a really tough job, which drives me nuts because I know that you can't just say no to a call at 3 a.m., right? You have to go.
Right.
And that interrupts your sleep.
Yeah.
So it makes it even more important to find time to rest, sleep, nap during the day, whatever you can. Go to bed earlier the next night when you're off. Those types of things. Also finding time to rest and like do meditation type of stuff, like even meditative movement, like Tai Chi, Qigong type of things are going to be really important for the body as well, just to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. My guess, I don't know this for sure, but my guess is while you guys are at work, your sympathetic nervous system is highly stimulated. Even if you're doing nothing, right? Like even if you're sitting around the table and you're eating, or even if you're sleeping, right? Like I would guess if anybody would do a sleep study on you guys, that would be actually really interesting to see if you're able to enter a deep sleep or if you're constantly just worried, like while
Yeah.
you're sleeping about the bell going off,
I
you know?
have to see if I can find it. I do remember reading about there have been studies that are showing you can even be at a slower assignment. Maybe you're not waking up 5 times after midnight, but the fact that we are at work and our body is anticipating the potential of a call coming through, our sleep state is not as deep and as clean and
Yeah.
as quality as if we're at home and we don't have that worry going on in the back of our minds.
Yeah.
We're not in our own beds. There's some different hacks that we can use when we're at home, like really darkening the space, maybe using white noise.
Exactly.
Not having to worry about the anticipation of a call coming through.
Mhm.
We don't have that at the firehouse
No.
typically.
Yeah.
Or a lot of firehouses, you get woken up by a call that you're not even due on. Maybe it's just another piece of apparatus, another crew has to go to that call, but you're still getting woken up with the lights
Yeah.
and all the bells going off.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
we're already talking about it. What are, from your background, like what would you tell people? I'm coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that I can do to help support just my sleep, whether that's nutrition or supplements? Like, what are you telling people? Best practices just to get me better quality sleep if I'm having trouble there. I'm struggling with that.
I would say, so if somebody's coming to me for acupuncture, sorry, my frog came back. I would say I want to see you like once a week for acupuncture treatments for probably like 6 to 8 weeks, just to train your chi, specifically like your liver chi, to recognize what sleep is basically and move in a healthy way, not get stuck anywhere, like move in a really healthy way to help encourage sleep.
Yeah.
So the sleep is the like ruler of sleep in Chinese medicine is the liver basically.
Okay.
And we should be in bed, according to Chinese medicine, we should be in bed and asleep by 11 p.m. at night. So that's like going to bed like 9:30, maybe 10 latest, and not looking at your phone. Like, so going to sleep then and like trying to sleep. And that sets us up for like a more restful sleep.
Sure.
So the spirit of the liver in Chinese medicine is said to like travel basically at night when we're asleep. And if we are not getting deep sleep and we're not getting quality sleep, then that spirit can't travel, which would cause disharmony in the body.
Yeah.
So one thing I would tell them to do is that I need to see you like once a week for acupuncture or moxa or cupping or whatever we're going to do for like 6 to 8 weeks to start training your chi to recognize what like a healthy sleep is.
Yeah.
Right. And then I would encourage them to do at least, I know it's really hard to do, I struggle with it, like to do meditation.
Yeah.
I get into meditation and I'm like thinking about the next things I have to do, or I get bored, right? So,
right.
But even starting slow, like even doing like a minute of meditation a day, just to try to get your body used to it, and even just stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system a little bit.
Yeah.
I would try to encourage that.
Down regulate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or do something like Tai Chi, Qigong type of thing, which like do like meditative movement. That's just as good. And you're moving, right? So you kind of get that benefit too.
Sure.
And then eating regularly, not drinking caffeine late in the day, those types of things.
I know.
TJ.
I saw the eye roll.
TJ is just like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it just escaped me.
What'd you say?
Cheers. Cheers.
Or like 30 ounces of coffee.
Yeah. So the meditation side of things, I think for so many people, they think it is very frou-frou. You're sitting on a pillow and, your like fingers are like, your thumb and your finger, index finger are touching each other. And like, you look like the guy from The Lion King, the monkey. From The Lion King.
Oh my gosh, I love that guy.
Right. A lot of people think that's what meditation is, and it doesn't have to be that at all.
Not at all.
I think there's a couple good resources that I know of. There's one Instagram page called Yogi Brian, and it's a tattooed bearded guy who cusses a lot.
Love it.
And he will give you a quick 1-minute meditation to chill you the fuck out.
Yeah.
And that's what he says.
Dude, I love it.
And it's awesome.
It's awesome. It doesn't have to be long.
It doesn't have to be long.
Right?
And there's so many different types of meditation. Do you know of any resources that you go to? Like, I know another app that has been really simple and approachable is is Buddhify.
Oh, cool.
Buddhify, it's a super,
Awesome.
I think it's like $4. And there's
That's
a
awesome.
ton of meditations on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
is there anything that you know?
I personally like meditative movement. I'm somebody, I have trouble sitting still.
Yeah.
So I like the meditative movement side of meditation.
Yeah.
So like Qigong is Chinese medicine movement, basically. Tai Chi is just one form of Qigong. And there's two guys, you can YouTube them basically. One is Damo Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good at doing Qigong, and the other guy's name is totally escaping me right now, but I'll remember it and I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
But Damo's really good.
Okay.
Damo Mitchell.
Yeah. Great. Piggybacking on what you said,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm like the mobility guy from the gym.
Yeah.
And then that a lot of it is meant to be restorative movement, whether it's injury rehab or prevention. And I've noticed if I'm having trouble, I'm going to get out of bed. And a lot of it is like yoga type movement,
Nice.
but it's just long pose holding stretches of just detensioning the body.
Yeah.
And then you really feel yourself, again, just down regulate.
Exactly.
And then when you slip back into bed, you just feel more rested.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And just, we accumulate a lot of tension in our neck, our shoulders, our low back. And
Mhm.
to be able to remove some of that tension, like you do sleep so much more soundly.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
It's huge. Yeah. It's awesome.
Some of the herbal supplements, like I'm a fan of like my sleepy time tea.
I love
it. Are there certain things that you would go to or recommend for that side of things? Is that something that in your experience is actually helping?
Yeah. I like sleepy time tea also.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people who take melatonin,
Mhm.
and I'm okay with melatonin as a sleep supplement. Our bodies make melatonin, and as we age, our melatonin decreases. So I think it's okay to take melatonin. You can take too much of it, and it can do the opposite effect. It can like make you groggy or not sleep very well.
Yeah.
But
And some
yeah,
of the research
so-
I've seen is if you are a consistent user,
Mhm.
you're also training your body not to produce it anymore because
Exactly.
it's getting it from an external source.
Right,
So you just got to be
exactly.
very careful with it.
You do have
right?
to be careful.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of an as needed,
totally. Yeah. So
not a consistent use.
I'm not a huge supplement person. I only
Yeah.
recommend supplements if it's warranted, honestly.
Yeah.
So I would more go towards like more of the herbal remedies, like the teas and things
Yeah.
like that. If somebody's like, what can I do to support my sleep?
Cool.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of different types out there. Are there certain makeups that you're looking for? Because there's like chamomile, there's valerian root, there's
Yeah.
rose hips. Like what?
For me, I'm like whatever you like and
Just
whatever
do that
works.
thing. Yeah.
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 I don't know enough about the quality of the studies on each of these different herbal substances, or I'm not familiar with whether they have been studied
Yeah.
or whatever. So I would more so recommend for somebody to go with a flavor that you like and go with whatever you're going to stay consistent with, like whatever's
Yeah.
going to work for you.
I feel like it's such a common trend and theme just in sleep is the consistency of time going to bed, consistent practice,
Yeah.
and just habit forming of, same time. If you want to use your tea, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do what you can to downregulate that system. Like you said, get off the phone.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah. Try not to drink alcohol before you go
Yeah.
to bed. That's
Yeah,
a tough
I
one.
know.
I like to drink my glass of wine every day. It is tough, but yeah,
Yeah.
alcohol can interrupt our sleep rhythms too. So,
Yeah, sure.
and alcohol in Chinese medicine is very hot. So
Mhm.
it creates heat in the body, and heat is like movement, right? And
Yeah.
so if we have a lot of heat in our body from drinking a lot of alcohol before we go to bed, then it might not allow us to have the most restful sleep. So,
yeah, sure.
yeah.
I think that's very well researched, and it's
yeah,
just
totally.
interesting to come from your side of it
Yeah.
too, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Now I'm actually going to pitch this off to you now. I know you had some questions just so you could get like a better understanding of what we're doing. Like you were talking about obesity rates.
Yeah.
And there was things like sleep and injury, like to kind of prompt some of the next questions. I know we were talking about like our physical and stress tests. What happens if people come off the floor?
Dude, yes.
So,
Because I was talking to Ryan about that. When
Yeah.
you sent me your list of questions, I was like, I don't know. I like questions generate questions for me.
yeah.
So I was like, well, why is the obesity rate so high in the fire department? I didn't understand that was one question I had.
Yeah.
And then
I think some of it's
Yeah.
cultural.
Is
So
it? Okay.
I think some of it's cultural in that, well, one, we eat fast.
yes.
I think that's a
Dude.
thing, like just slowing down so we
Yes.
know when we're actually full.
Mm-hmm.
I think we see it around the firehouse a lot, like the quantity of food. I'm totally guilty. I like a big plate of food. I like feeling full, and that's not always necessarily the best thing.
Yeah.
So the quantity of food is something. I think it's the environment where we go from being idle, and then all of a sudden we get switched on and we go, hard and fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come back and then we might be idle again. Obviously I am trying to promote physical fitness as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
but not everybody has bought into that.
Right. Yeah.
I've literally had people tell me my adrenaline will get me through this call.
Oh boy.
Your adrenaline might be the thing that puts you into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
I've had people say, well, I have 30 years of experience. My tips and tricks and my experience built over 25, 30 years will get me through this call because I operate more efficiently than you.
Mm.
I'm like, if you're prone to injury and your, body fat percentage is 45%, like you're not really, yes, you probably have a lot of skills, but if you can't implement them wisely because your body just can't handle it, that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're starting to see a switch
Mm-hmm.
for being more physically fit, leaning out, being stronger, protecting your joints. We're fortunate if you're in the professional side of this, career side, hopefully you have a good pension.
Yeah.
You want to make it to the point to where you can actually benefit from it.
You want to enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually accumulate that in retirement. I know I don't think it's true anymore, but 5 years after you retire was the average age. And then you would die 5 years after retirement.
Is that in the fire department?
That's in the fire
That's
service.
A stat from oh my God.
Yeah, I think it's getting better. I think that's an older
terrible.
stat. So I think we are changing that. But how alarming is that? You spend 30 plus years doing this job, maybe even if it's just 20 and you only make it 5 years.
Dude, that's awful.
So that's where, coming into the CVD things and, the Western diet is not doing so hot,
it's
right?
terrible. Yeah,
So a
I
lot of
know.
processed things. And sometimes we are busy. So sometimes the quick fix is just so easy to grab the packaged food,
Mhm.
right? So that's a good question for you. Fire service snacks. All right. What do we do? What are some of the things that you think would be just a good benefit for just on the go?
Yeah.
I mean, breakfast, lunch, dinner, sometimes I know we have people that won't eat until 3-4 hours when the meal was prepared.
Dude.
Because you're just running calls.
I know it's hard.
Or there are plenty of people that they show up at 7 a.m., whatever the start time is, and they don't come back to the firehouse until it's time to get back off.
Right.
So you're just running constantly.
Can you take snacks in the apparatus with you?
Sure. Yeah. Some people actually do that. They'll
Okay,
bring
good.
their own little coolers and shove them in a compartment and bring it with. So if you have that opportunity, in between calls, instead of grabbing the Snickers bars and the ice cream sandwiches, like what would be some of your go-tos that one is going to satiate you, but it's also going to lend itself to performance when you are running stressful calls and just like high energy expenditure incidents? Like what are some of the go-tos for you?
My favorites would be, and it's a no-brainer, right? I would say pieces of fruit, which may not stick with you a long time.
Right.
And like just raw vegetables, maybe with like hummus dip or, something like that, just to have, just so you can get the actual nutrients, the actual good quality nutrients.
The actual micronutrients.
Right.
Yeah.
From those foods rather than getting it from like a synthetic source in a packaged item.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or like I also like to make, I haven't done it in a while. Ryan's going to laugh when he hears this. It's like homemade granola bars or like homemade, we make like little energy bites, which are like oats and I think almond butter and like honey and like little chocolate chips in them or whatever, like things like that you can just pop, that you know where it came from, you know what it is, right?
Right.
So like even things like that, I think are perfect and what you need. It doesn't need to be fancy and it doesn't need to be like super prepackaged.
Yeah.
And And those things are, I think, easier. You don't even need to keep them cold, right? Like
Yeah,
you
right.
can just have it in a bag on the apparatus with you just
Yeah.
to get something.
I think it's so easy to run to the gas station down the street and grab the energy drink and the Snickers bar and hey,
Yeah.
I'm good to
Oh,
go until
God.
dinner, you know?
Yes,
And sometimes simplicity is the best thing. So
exactly.
like you said, the fruit, the vegetables, nut butters, like higher quality ones.
Yeah,
Like these are the things that are going to satiate you. They're going to keep you
exactly.
fuller longer.
Yeah. They're going to give you fiber. They're going to give you the
Right.
nutrients that you need. And like the fruit is going to be good energy. It's going to be good quality energy. And it's not going to have you crash
Yeah.
like an energy drink might, you
Right.
know? And I get it too. Nobody is perfect. And I don't expect my patients to be perfect 100% of the time. So yeah, if you have to like a shift, go and get the energy drink and the Snickers bar. For me, I'm a realist. Like that's going to happen. And if it happens less often than not, then that's better, right?
Absolutely. This isn't like an everyday thing. This is a
no.
one-off, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I was firing on all cylinders, and then that one got me. I had
By
something
like
right
that, it's
there. and
okay
it's
not
like-
to be perfect.
Yeah, it just went.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I had it right there. Damn. Okay. We were talking about blood tests a little bit ago.
Oh yeah.
So we're fortunate that we get yearly blood tests. Not
Mhm.
everybody has it. I mean, totally recommend you going to your primary care physician and getting blood tests done. If somebody gets that done and comes to you, what are some of the things that you're looking for and how can you best supplement them if you see any holes with that blood test? So, I mean, I'm talking everything from, there's the simple ones like the cholesterol and blood pressure and triglycerides. But then if we're talking even deeper, like vitamin D levels and hormones are maybe being affected because with sleep disturbances and sometimes sickness, those can go awry. What are you looking for? If like, hey, here's my blood panel,
Yeah.
go help me,
Yeah.
do something, please.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
What are you looking
What is
for and what
this?
can you do?
So I'll look for, most patients will bring a comprehensive metabolic panel or CMP
Mhm.
with like a CBC with differential, which is like all your white blood cells.
Yep.
Most patients bring that in, which includes like everything that you just mentioned, like cholesterol, triglycerides, all those types of things. A doctor has to order it extra to look at like thyroid hormones,
Yeah.
other hormones, and like vitamin D or micronutrient panels, different things like
Yeah.
that. Like they have to order that extra. So if somebody comes to me and doesn't have that, I'll ask if I see a need for it, right?
Yeah.
I'll ask them to go back to their doctor and ask to get that ordered. So, and I'm looking at different things depending on different conditions, right? So if somebody's coming to me with something, I might look at a specific lab value. If somebody coming to me with something else, I might look at something else. I'm also not the first one to look at like hormones or vitamins and say, you need this supplement. I'll more
Gotcha.
so look at like, what can we do from a lifestyle perspective, from a food perspective,
Yeah.
from like a Chinese medicine perspective to help get these lab values normal.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. We're definitely going down that road.
Okay,
What are some
yeah.
of I think just generally speaking, what are the things you see most coming out of whether it be the fire service or just Western
Yeah.
medicine or, just the Western lifestyle in general, where you're like, hey, listen, I see a lot of this.
Yeah.
Here are best practices to combat that we're
Yeah.
doing.
High cholesterol, of course.
Yeah.
Low vitamin D
I think that's
are
a huge
two big
one.
ones.
Yeah.
And vitamin D is a tough one. It's really hard to get that up from food because foods don't, there's like the foods that provide vitamin D are difficult. Like it's difficult to get
Yeah.
enough vitamin D from our diet.
That is one of the
basically.
things I use every day for supplementation.
Right. Like vitamin D is a good one for supplements.
Yeah.
And I will also recommend for, like speaking of vitamin D, I'll recommend for people to go out and spend some time outside in the sun.
Yeah.
Like spend like 15 minutes in the sun if you
Right.
can. If you have like the skin type that is going to burn in 15 minutes
Right.
without sunscreen on, right? Just to get
Yes.
that vitamin D absorbed through your skin. And and like this is interesting. In some countries, like in the like Norwegian, Scandinavian countries, they will typically supplement with vitamin D only during the winter months, which is interesting because they're inside more, right? And they're outside more in the summer months. So that's one time that I'll recommend supplements. Different. Yeah,
I'm a fan of that. I think some of the studies I've seen is 4,000 IUs a day is typical max absorption. But I have noticed just with some of the athletes I've worked with and even family members, people are really bottomed out. I've had doctors prescribe tens of thousands of IUs just to prop up the system, and then they start to titrate back.
Yeah. Which is
so
important.
it's super, I mean, it directly affects your immune system.
100%.
And then once your immune system gets affected, all these other little things start dropping off. It's like a cascade.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you mentioned just sun exposure.
Yeah.
I think we're so quick because we think of like marketing's been great for like skin damage and people wearing lotions that automatically have SPF in it. And we go outside and we don't get any absorption because we're protected. I think generally speaking, I think it's like 45 minutes for most people you can do without having any type of crazy sun damage.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And then maybe put the SPF on.
And then maybe put it on, right?
Now, if you're standing in the middle of a beach, you know, in the height of summer, okay, we can throttle that back a little bit.
Maybe 20 minutes.
Right. But generally speaking, you're right. Just get outside. There's nothing wrong. There's no negative side effects of getting outside.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. I know.
I think this is more Japanese mindset, but I don't know if you've walked through this with Chinese medicine. There's an actual therapy that they call wood bathing or forest bathing, where it's just if in the Japanese culture, if like people are getting stressed out or if there's sickness, doctors will literally prescribe people to get outside and walk in the woods. Find a trail and just get outside.
Yes.
And it's actually really pretty well documented.
Yeah.
Of, you know, just the therapeutic benefits of just getting the hell outside.
Dude, have you heard of grounding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know a ton about it, but I know a couple people that are like big into it.
Yes.
I had friends that were actually in the military that went overseas and they bought certain like grounding mats just to help them relieve some of the stress. And, you know, sleeping in barracks overseas in a sandbox wasn't the most fun thing, right? But they saw some pretty cool benefits from it.
Yeah.
Are you more familiar with it? Like, because I'm not.
It's not something that we like covered in school necessarily, but it is. I mean, we like went over it briefly in school, but it's more along the same lines of like get outside, get your body into nature and get your body actually touching nature, you know? So it's this idea of like, I don't know much about the science behind it. I just know kind of like high level. It's this idea of walking barefoot, laying on the ground. It's better if the ground's dewy, you know? And you're able to exchange ions essentially with the earth.
Yeah.
And you can like exchange the bad ions for like the good ones. Right. So that's kind of what's happening. A super high level. It's not very scientific, but that's basically what's happening. But it's the same idea of just get your body outside into nature.
Yeah. It's what's similar with just being at the beach.
Yeah.
You know, the negative ions coming off the water.
Yeah.
Like that's an actual
it's the same
thing.
idea. Exactly. Yeah.
Man, that's super cool. We're covering so many different things here. We're covering lots of ground. Is there anything from your practice that you want to cover that we haven't really touched on?
I'm trying
because
to
I feel like
There's
I'm not
so
aware
much.
enough of what you get into, you know, and I know that
Yeah.
you can provide like this really awesome zoomed out view of things.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, good question. Chinese medicine is it's like so deep. So it's hard for me to think like what's one thing that I want to pick out.
yeah.
I don't know, man. I would say, I guess maybe an understanding of, I don't know, like the organ relationships, the elemental relationships, maybe. So like in Chinese medicine, there's 5 elements. There's wood, which is associated with the spring. Fire, which is associated with summer. Did I tell you this before? No.
Yeah. I think when we first started working together, yeah.
Earth, which is associated with like late summer. And then metal, which is fall, and water, which we're in right now, which is winter.
Yeah.
And so one cool thing about Chinese medicine is that it developed. So Chinese medicine is like applied Chinese philosophy, basically. And it developed because these amazing, smart people 5,000 years ago in China were witnessing what was happening in nature.
Yeah.
And trying to correlate it with what happens in the human body.
Mm-hmm.
And so 5-element theory is just one of the theories that we utilize in Chinese medicine. There's yin yang theory and qi theory, etc. But from a 5-element point of view, the thing I love about it is that each element is related to one another, and also kind of like they go in a cycle, and they also kind of go in a star fashion, right? So they control each other, and they promote each other, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And we can allow ourselves to have such less suffering, I guess you could say, if we also adhere to what's happening in nature around us, right? So like we look at winter right now is what's happening. It's really dark outside. Unfortunately, it gets dark really early. It's cold. Things look dead, essentially, but they're not. They've just gone to ground. They're kind of conserving their energy so that they have
mode.
so that they can come out in spring and thrive, right?
Yeah.
And so we should be adhering to, like, we should be basing our actions in the season based off of what's happening in nature, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is like one theory in Chinese medicine. So for example, in the wintertime, we should go to bed, obviously, when you guys aren't working. You should go to bed probably even earlier than being asleep by 11. Like, there's a saying that we should go to bed with the dark and wake up with the light, right? Now, nobody's going to go to bed at like 4:30. Right? But maybe TJ will. But it's just something that we can do to ensure that our next season, like the spring being able to thrive and grow, is adhere to the season. Another thing that we can do is, like, this season is more of like a yin season. And yin is more stillness, right?
Yeah.
So in the wintertime, practice more stillness. The summertime is the time for like movement and staying up late and like hanging out with friends and, being, I don't know, going to party, right? So the wintertime is more about
just be more like a bear and hibernate.
Right. Exactly. It's more like meditative stillness. And of course, you're not going to do that all the time. It's the holidays. So we want to hang out with friends and we want to like stay up late. And that's totally fine. But more times than not, try to adhere to the energetics of what's happening around us in nature.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I would bring.
Don't have that energy expenditure to the point that it's detrimental to your being.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so that's
cool.
one thing that I would pull out from the medicine just to mention. There's so many.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I know. There's so many different rabbit holes.
I don't even know where to begin. Yeah.
So I guess two things kind of wrapping up. One being, if somebody were to look for an acupuncturist or somebody that they can benefit from Chinese medicine, what should I be looking for? Like when I start looking up acupuncturist and Chinese medicine therapy in my area, what are some things that I need to look for?
Cascade Wellness. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's my next question. That's my next thing is how to find you.
Yeah. Nothing special in particular, because most of us are going to be generalists. Now, some of us will specialize in like women's health specifically, or like, I don't know, something else, pain management. But most of us are generalists because we're trained to kind of look at the body as a whole. Yeah. So it's not like you need to look for somebody who's going to practice a specialty.
Gotcha.
And in the state of Maryland, if you're looking in Maryland, we have to be licensed. So it's not like there's two different types. It's not like dietitians where you have a dietitian, you have a nutritionist, right? Okay. It's like all acupuncturists, we all have to have license. We all have to go to school for 3 years plus, whatever. So you really can't go wrong just looking for an acupuncturist close to you. It's convenient. Okay. I would say that maybe takes your insurance.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And then, that was kind of the last thing. You threw me up you laid it up for me. You have an interweb presence.
I do.
So where can people find you for more information and just connecting with you?
It's www.cascadewellnessmd for Maryland.com. And I'm on Instagram, I think, as Cascade Wellness MD. Yeah. And Facebook too, same, I think. So.
And then you also have the Skin
Oh, I
Nutrition
was like,
Library.
what else do I have?
Right.
Yeah. So I
explain
started this
that.
thing. I don't know, man. So I'm super yin deficient in Chinese medicine because I overwork.
Okay.
Like I push myself too hard,
Uh-huh.
like you guys. But anyway, so I work in my one practice location, I work with an esthetician, and she was like, we need to work together for like nutrition, Chinese medicine, and what I do because they're so related. And I was like, yes. How do we work together? Anyway, this is what I came up with, which is this thing called the Skin Nutrition Library.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically a ton of topics related to nutrition and Chinese medicine for skin and gut health.
Cool.
And it's focused on skin and gut health, but it is like general health, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just the skinnutritionlibrary.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we got, I mean, and you're putting out stuff all the time, and you have a lot of great little snippets and there's
thanks,
knowledge
dude.
bombs that you can just throw out there to help people out. So it's a great resource.
I try. I have
Yeah.
no idea what I'm doing, but
Us
I try.
too. Us too. We're figuring it out. So.
All good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
What's up, guys and gals? I am back. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And as always, we want to give a special shout out to those patrons who have pledged to help out in this crazy endeavor. The amount of patrons that we're getting keeps growing almost daily, and such support is going to allow us to do so many crazy, awesome things in the future. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. We appreciate you greatly. So a special shout out goes out to James R., Austin N., Matthew D., Zach M., and Griffin S. Guys, thank you so much for contributing to our Patreon and for keeping this adventure going. We're going to bring you so much more value, and you're just along for a great ride. Thanks again. Talk soon. Bye. Hey, everyone. It's TJ here from Keep the Promise. As you know, this podcast is all about helping firefighters become more resilient and well-rounded so that they can be a force for good within their fire department and their community. But today, I want to talk to you about something that's just as important, and that is supporting firefighters who are going through tough times. When one of our fellow firefighters is off work because they have to go to the Center for Excellence, they have to go to rehab, they have mental health issues, or they have other health issues, it really takes away their support system, and it wreaks havoc on their finances and their family's finances. And many times, these brothers and sisters are left to struggle alone, away from their support system and the people who love them without the resources they need to recover. That's why I'm setting a bold new goal. And that is to reach 150 total patrons on Patreon so that we can start a fund to help firefighters and their families during these challenging times. And I need your help to make it happen. With your support on Patreon, we'll be able to provide financial assistance to firefighter families who are battling things like addiction, depression, and cancer. We're going to help alleviate the financial strain that can come with being away from the fire department so that our brothers and sisters can focus on healing and recovering. Now, reaching 150 total patrons is a big goal, but I believe that we can do it together. And when we do, we'll be able to make a real difference in the lives of those who serve and protect alongside us. So, if you're not already a patron, I invite you to join us today. Head over to joinkeepthepromise.com and sign up today. Again, that is joinkeepthepromise.com. And if you already are a patron, thank you so much for your support. You'll be receiving some exclusive rewards and perks as a way of saying thanks. Together, let's show our fellow firefighters that we've got their back just like they always have ours. Thank you for listening. Let's get started with the episode.